Hello and welcome to On Air. I'm Klara Srevich. From digital democracy to dystopia. Today we look at how social media shape and increasingly manipulate current politics. And later our journey takes us to one of Europe's most isolated and well-guarded spots, Kaliningrad. Once upon a time in the last century, when politics meant town halls or TV debates, and we used carriages pulled by woolly mammoths, Poland was electing its first president after the fall of communism. Lech Wałęsa, the hero of the Solidarity movement, was a candidate. What could go wrong? A curious newcomer appeared on the scene, and suddenly everyone was intrigued. His name was Stan Tymiński. He was a Polish entrepreneur from Peru with mysterious charm and an endearing accent. At first, his support was tiny, but as TV coverage ramped up and the first round of elections came about, everyone woke up with a cold sweat. Tymiński had surged to second place. Stan Tymiński had excellent advisors, rumoured to be Russia-affiliated ex-communist security service agents who helped him brand himself as an accomplished businessman, the ultimate outsider, untainted by the Polish political circus. During the televised debate, Tymiński casually waved around a black briefcase supposedly packed with kompromat on Wałęsa. We never got to hear what was inside, but the prop was a campaign stunner. Eventually, riding on a wave of panicked voter mobilization, Wałęsa pulled in nearly 75% of the vote, but Tymiński still garnered solid support and ended up founding a new party called X. I know this sounds like AI invented history by mixing the current Romanian election with Elon Musk's ascent to political power, but it's all true. If TikTok had been around 33 years ago, Lech Wałęsa wouldn't have had a chance. It's redundant to say that social media has defined political debate for the last decades, but everyone still seems taken aback when elections in an EU country are hijacked by a relatively obscure man called Călin Georgescu, who happens to look like a mature male model and who, besides giving off creepy vibes to carpenters, also rides a white horse like Putin, practices judo like Putin, supports Putin like Putin, and, as alleged by intelligence online, is most likely a Putin puppet.
Romania has become a testing ground in Europe for Russian information manipulation. Through a network of Russia-backed Romanian operators, the Kremlin is now behind a push to get its preferred presidential candidate elected.
Q2 Island, where gang boss Jerry the Monk Hutch nearly clinched a parliamentary seat through a quirky campaign of amateur TikTok videos. Admittedly, it would have been interesting to have a lawmaker still facing death threats from a rival gang, being on trial for money laundering and once accused of murder in a feud that left 18 dead, including his own brother. Maybe all this has something to do with the fact that we expect to be learning about pension reform from viral dance clips. Regular, predictable, sane politicians don't offer easy answers or outrageous commentaries. Boring. The European far right is particularly adept at selling itself to young people through TikTok. Just look at France's far-right Gen Z leader Jordan Bardella. In the case of the German AfD, their videos seem to be addressing 13-year-olds with anti-LGBTQ messages while giving off strong hentai homoerotic undertones. It's all very disturbing. Frankly speaking, those times make me think fondly of Cambridge Analytica. And yes, brain rot has been voted Word of the Year by Oxford University. I get that social media platforms have made politics more interactive and, for better or worse, very entertaining. But I'm alarmed at how, beside turning democracy into a scroll of hot takes, regulations and transparency standards are simply not geared to technological advancement. My alarm has a name. It's called the Kaliningrad dilemma, in which control of emerging technologies comes too late to mitigate their consequences. Let's also denounce social media for what it is, a weapon listed in new war preparedness manuals from Sweden, Finland or Norway under headings like hybrid warfare and psychological defense, with advice such as get your news from trusted sources, beware of emotionally charged content. The EU Digital Services Act, which came into effect this summer, is the world's most far-reaching regulation of social platforms, and yet the EU can't get TikTok's CEO to answer questions about election interference in Romania or force Elon Musk to clean up his platform, which is described as a hellpit of hate speech, bots and disinformation. For an idea of the EU's street cred, a fake Finnish commissioner profile is apparently catfishing on the platform Blue Sky, convincing you to invest money into some businesses because Romania and Bulgaria have integrated the Schengen area. I'm sure the doppelganger is also on Tinder pushing someone into crypto. Apparently, the European Commission has contacted Blue Sky, probably through a report abuse form. Good luck with that. If all else fails, you can always create your own social platform. Poland's ultra-conservative Law and Justice Party tried that with Albikla, essentially a provincial clone of Truth Social. Albikla made a nice alliteration with debacle. Surprise, it didn't catch on. And now for the really scary part. The appearance of new technologies capable of reading emotional reactions or vulnerabilities from the faces of users. Some people already claim TikTok's algorithm knew their sexual orientation before they could fathom it themselves. Now we can count on social media to analyze our unconscious micro-reactions to political content. Last month, Apple patented a technology which, besides reading faces, also factors in body characteristics, including a person's gait and gestures, so we can be easily tracked even when our faces are obscured. The potential for surveillance and manipulation is limitless. And circling back to the good old days, since they seem to repeat themselves, remember 90s Russian oligarchs, how they wielded Boris Yeltsin from his drunken stupor into power? Russian politics specialist Stephen Hall describes the typical oligarch as an extremely wealthy businessman who controls a sector of the economy, owns at least one media outlet, and entered the political arena very quickly. Sounds familiar? Today, the world's richest man has a dominant position in the auto industry as well as in American aerospace and already controls world geopolitics, like actual battle outcomes in the war in Ukraine, through his Starlink satellite. Elon Musk has made a blitzkrieg apparition in the political realm, influenced elections through his media platform, funded his candidate's rise to power, and now he's poised to take the highest offices himself. If Donald Trump's second term mirrors Yeltsin's weakening of state institutions, making them dependent on particular interests, Musk and others will exploit the chaos to dismantle rules that diminish their profits, like laws limiting surveillance, AI abuse, or disinformation. When they succeed, well, you might find yourself organizing protests using, I wanted to say pages, but that's a bad idea. We'll have to make do with underground printing and postal pigeons. And since we're on the subject of surveillance, let's zoom in on a little nugget of evil sitting right here at the heart of the EU. No, it's not Luxembourg, although dodgy money channeled from the Grand Duchy certainly made its way to that place. Actually, we are talking about Russia's outpost on the Baltic Sea, a fortified, GPS-jamming, nuclear weapons stockpiling, undersea cable-cutting emporium. Welcome to Kaliningrad.
The Russian exclave of Kaliningrad, nestled between NATO members Poland and Lithuania, has become a focal point for military and geopolitical tensions in Eastern Europe. Recent reports suggest that Moscow is deploying advanced electronic warfare systems from the exclave, contributing to widespread GPS disruptions across NATO's eastern flank.
There are some signals here that the Russians are trying to jump for us and vice versa. They are using radar technology to establish the movement of military units.
Estonian analysts identified a clandestine Russian EW system named Tobol, reportedly stationed in Kaliningrad and linked to interference as far back as March 2022, when Finnish aircraft near the exclave reported GPS disturbances.
This is likely a new reality now. We probably have to live with it and cope with it. It is a continuous game of cat and mouse where we try to outsmart the ones that wish us harm.
Beyond its electronic warfare capabilities, Kaliningrad hosts a specialized GRU intelligence unit, tasked with training saboteurs for operations across Poland and the Baltic states. Estimates from the CPRI Yearbook 2024 suggest Russia possesses between 1,500 and 2,000 tactical warheads, with up to 100 potentially stationed in Kaliningrad. These are mounted on Iskander missiles, capable of reaching Warsaw and Berlin. Poland's foreign minister, Radosław Sikorski, expressed grave concerns about this arsenal, emphasizing its potential to undermine European security.
Putin's Russia remains one of the most important security threats not only to Europe, but also to the global order. Its goal remains the permanent destruction of the European security architecture.
The Suwałki Gap, a critical corridor between Poland and Lithuania, remains a vulnerable flashpoint, particularly with Belarusian forces stationed just a day's march away. In response to escalating threats from both Russia and Belarus, Poland has embarked on an unprecedented militarization of its eastern borders. Dubbed the East Shield, this project involves a series of fortifications stretching 700 kilometers along the borders with Kaliningrad and Belarus. Designed to deter both military incursions and hybrid threats such as migrant flows weaponized by Russia and Belarus, the project is slated for completion by 2028.
Welcome back. We're here with Małgorzata Bonikowska and we'll try to assess the threats posed by Kaliningrad. Hello, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So Poland and Lithuania are tightening defenses around Kaliningrad, Norway and Finland around their borders, and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has proposed a Baltic Navy policing program. It's all great, but why is it happening 3 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine? It's a bit late to wake up and smell the coffee.
It's a very good question. I really don't understand it because we just forgot we had not only the eastern border, but we have also the northern border, which is actually our coastline. So I think it's better late than never. But it's definitely high time to watch it and to do something about the Baltic border as well, and also the cooperation between or among all the Baltic states, which just happen to be also the NATO members, because recently Sweden and Finland joined NATO, made Baltic the internal lake of NATO, except for 2 points, which is St. Petersburg in Russia and Kaliningrad, Królewicz Oblast, meaning these 2 spots are a problem for all of us. So we have to really watch very carefully what the Russians will do and are doing already at the Baltic Sea. It is not only about the sea itself, it's about the security of our pipelines, of our cables under the sea waters, of our ships, and everything which is happening on the Baltic Sea. What I think it's very important is also look for hybrid threats. Hybrid threats meaning no one will tell us that we will be attacked. It could be through destabilizing our GPS signal, for example. Our flights are in danger over the Baltic Sea. So we have to really, in a very complex way, watch the northern border.
The Nordic and Baltic countries held a summit last week. They were even joined by not very Baltic and not very Nordic French President Emmanuel Macron. He joined them virtually. But there was one grand absentee, and that was Germany. Why did Olaf Scholz not attend this summit?
First of all, everybody knows the situation in Germany is very unstable. The government doesn't really have support anymore. It collapsed, so we will have new elections in Germany very soon, in February. It will be definitely having a change of power. Most likely the CDU will run the country again, meaning the Christian Democratic Party.
Hopefully.
Maybe together with Social Democrats, by the way, because it will be extremely difficult for Christian Democrats to win the majority, meaning they will have again to form a coalition, and most likely with whom? With Social Democrats, because Alternative für Deutsche doesn't gel with the Christian Democratic ideas. So maybe Olaf Scholz will be back to the government if he still keeps the position of a leader of the party, but definitely he will not be a chancellor. So for him, it's not a good moment. But on the other side, I think Poland would like to be seen as a leader of this initiative. And I think Donald Tusk, our Prime Minister, stresses the importance of Poland in this Nordic-Baltic format. We will be much more engaged because it's not only our border, it's of course also an eastern flank or eastern front of NATO from the northern side. But it's also a cooperation of the EU member states, because it's not only that these countries are in NATO, they are also in the European Union. And don't forget, Poland will take a lead in the EU Council since January. So I think this all is stressed by this northern format, that Poland wants to stress our own role. We don't want to be somehow shadowed by another strong country in the neighborhood, Germany.
Yeah, but I don't think it's to the benefit of that alliance, nonetheless. I mean, to leave this actor, this very important actor, out of it.
But let's put it this way: we need Germany, of course, in this format. But I think maybe at the moment, from the Polish side, it is very, very interesting and important to build deeper tie-ups among our neighbors. It's absolutely crucial now for Poland, for internal understanding of our own internal security, to remember the World War II started where? In Westerplatte.
Speaking of World War III, potentially a nice subject.
Hopefully not.
As you mentioned, there's a lot of satellite jamming, undersea cable cutting, all these state-sponsored terrorist activities stemming from Russia and possibly Kaliningrad. But the most frightening, the kind of Bay of Pigs situation there is that you have nuclear warheads pointed at European capitals. What is the likelihood of their deployment?
Well, it's a $1 million question. I think what made us still live in peace for so many years, despite having Cold War, is that they were these two giants, Soviet Union and the United States, with nuclear weapons. Today, the situation is slightly different because we have definitely a moment where Russia questioned the world order. And Russia, with its imperialistic policy, against everybody around, especially those countries who used to be a part of Soviet Union. Not only Ukraine, everybody who, like Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, all these 14 countries which got independence in 1991 when Soviet Union collapsed, now feel threatened. It's a feeling of an existential threat because of Ukraine, and we cannot exclude anything, including use by Russia some nuclear
tactical
weapons.
Nuclear weapons.
Of course, the consequences will be disastrous for Russia also, because this will put our conflict at an unimaginable level. And in this regard, we have to also remember that NATO and Russia, it's almost 50-50 as far as how many nuclear weapons we have. But we know that Russia they do exercises regularly with the consideration that nuclear weapons are used against, for example, Warsaw. And in this regard, Kaliningrad is one of those territories we have to really carefully look.
You mentioned Russian imperialism. Did you know there was a kind of satirical initiative to have the Czech Republic annex Kaliningrad and rename it Kralowec? So it was a critique of Russian imperialism. So obviously,
I understand the Czech friends want just the access to the Baltic Sea.
Exactly, they are landlocked, so they deserve an access to the Baltic Sea.
Of course, it's a joke, but it's a very serious matter. About also future of Ukraine, the negotiations between the US and Russia. Maybe even personally, Trump and Putin will talk. And if there is any idea of a buffer zone, demilitarization, we should include Kaliningrad into this, because for our security, this place full of nuclear weapons is just disastrous. So we cannot just imagine just the talks about Ukraine. We should just talk about the whole of the eastern flank.
Well, I can't really see them agreeing with that. Anyhow, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
And thank you for watching us. Join us next week for a look at the OSCE summit in Malta. See you soon.